Welcome to a Monday evening's edition of Creature Guide Live Daily News. We're going to be getting into some prehistoric to current animal news from around the world. And for those of you that don't know, my name is Ethan, and as well as we'll bump into some interesting animal videos. So let's start off with the first. So what's going on here? It looks like some person in a costume. Oh, wait, I don't, that doesn't seem to be. That's just a very um. That just seems like a
Very determined bear.
Yeah, I can't tell if it's a brown bear or just a black bear with a cinnamon color fur color. And oh no, it's a brown bear. Just a smaller one. Seems to probably be a cub.
I don't understand how they lost it.
Oh no.
How did
Oh, is it one of those?
what?
Like it wasn't actually.
No, I think it's real. I think it's just when the person was doing it. I think they're inside their car and they didn't bother to open their window and stick their phone out of their car. See how it looks like that? Yeah, see how they tried to zoom in to see it.
Hmm. Wonder where this would have occurred. I'm guessing somewhere in I don't know, it could have been Asia or some part of southern Europe because that sort of mountain range and that brown bear by the appearance didn't look like anything you would see in North America. Probably nowhere in Russia or certain parts of Eastern Europe. So that's why I'm guessing Middle East or maybe Southern Europe. So that was interesting. He's a very good rock climber. Okay, so on to the first article from ecotikias.com. He created a lake to raise fish and installed cameras to monitor them, but ended up attracting eagles, deer, and owls to one of the continent's most unexpected wildlife sanctuaries. Okay, so whatever this is occurring seems to be a very well built nest by this bald eagle. Wonder where the
So you
mate
said
is.
it's mine. Get away.
It was supposed to be a straightforward farm project: dig a 5-acre lake, raise tiger bass, manage oxygen and water quality, and harvest fish. Nothing more dramatic than that. Instead, in less than 3 years, a former peanut field turned into a living sanctuary crowded with bald eagles, deer, owls, ducks, squirrels, raccoons, and hungry predators above and below the surface. So I'm guessing this happened somewhere in the eastern United States. So what began as aquaculture quietly became a full-scale ecosystem, a natural experiment in what happens when you add water, food, and structure to empty land and simply let life decide. The story starts with a bear worked over a field planted with peanuts. The landowners decided to carve out a 5-acre lake and treat it like a technical project, carefully managing oxygen levels, underwater structure, and water quality so the fish would grow fast and stay healthy. At first, the lake was a closed system, almost clinical in its design. It held water and fish, nothing more. Then, within about 6 months, the silence around it began to change. Wings passed overhead, tracks appeared in the mud, and shadows started returning at the same hours every day. That's kind of freaky. Shadows. The early focus was all on tiger bass. Submerged structures were placed to give them ambush spots. Monitoring was constant with adjustments of two feeding and aeration. Everything pointed toward a neat, predictable fish farm with clear numbers and stable output. Okay, let's see if anything else occurred. But animals kept coming back. The same visitors showed up again and again, turning random sightings into routines. The lake stopped behaving like a piece of equipment and started acting like a biological magnet, pulling energy and attention to the surrounding land as much as into the water. The turning point came when a bald eagle dropped down to drink from the new lake instead of flying past. Before, these birds crossed the property without stopping. Now they had a reason to land. The introduction of tilapia. Oh, great, and trout created an easy, concentrated food source that was hard to ignore. You have to be careful with different species of trout that are not native to different areas of the United States, as well as tilapia, which are native to Southeast Asia, like areas such as Thailand, Myanmar, Malaysia, Vietnam, Cambodia, and they have become extremely invasive over in the eastern United States. So, in response, the humans built a tower, then a platform, eventually a nesting spot. The eagles brought in their own nesting material and adjusted it for wind and weather. It was not a formal reintroduction with cages and release schedules. It worked more like an invitation that wild birds chose to accept. Deer also began to linger. They did not just drink and flee, they lay down near the water and started to ignore nearby people, a strong sign that they viewed the place as safe. predictable, and rich in resources. In practical terms, that meant shade, water, and steady food. Ducks followed. Whistling ducks, dabblers, and divers all used the lake, and one resident pair raised 10 ducklings. That's good to hear. Predators came too, including owls that hunted over the water. Not every scene had a happy ending. The sociable duck nicknamed Romeo tried to befriend every newcomer, living proof that staying in a wild sanctuary still involves constant risk. Oh, no. Once food and
He didn't
cover.
say he was attacking them.
No, I know, but he just went over to like the owl, like, hey, I love everybody. um, Once food and cover appeared on the bank, smaller mammals moved in. Fox squirrels started collecting peanuts. A small house on the property became a focal point. First, one animal used it, then another, and soon a rat and a raccoon also claimed the space. Um, hmm, I don't know. The duck might not like it if he might not like the people that consistently give him bread, but it doesn't sound like anybody's been feeding him. Daytime and night, because bread is extremely bad for duck's digestive system. Daytime and nighttime occupancy split, with one occupant by day and another by night. At one point, an animal chewed through a window frame to create its own emergency exit. It might sound like a cute story, but it's really a snapshot of raw competition around a new resource. The lake sat at the center and everything else orbited around it. Below the surface, cameras captured a different kind of drama. Large female bass staged ambushes, striking with impressive efficiency. Some of these fish ate two or three prey items at a time or a day, turning that steady intake of protein to rapid weight gain. Giant freshwater shrimp patrolled the bottom, while dragonflies skimmed the surface and sometimes became fish food. Well, you also have it where dragonfly larvae, which are aquatic, will feed on small fish or fish fry. They're extremely carnivorous. Tilapia guarded their young by holding them in their mouths, a behavior known as mouth brooding, while other fish hunted around them. In roughly 3 years, a few bass grew from about 2 pounds to 7 pounds. The entire food chain became visible in real time, from insects and shrimp up to powerful top predators. Today, the site operates less like a closed fish farm and more like an open air laboratory. Cameras watch both shore and water. There are plans to stream live video.
So it
Feeders
sounds like this was a good thing.
yeah. Feeders can be triggered remotely. Some fish can even carry tags so they can be recaptured, measured, and logged, turning casual fishing trips into a data collection. What started as a technical aquaculture project has become a continuous observation of an emerging ecosystem.
Wait a minute. So you get your dinner and some information too?
Um, well,
It just
I
said a casual
guess.
fishing trip.
Yeah, that's true. Let's see. How many potential sanctuaries are we overlooking just because no one is willing to change something as basic as where the water goes? The main work has been documented by the creators of the Lake Project in their ongoing reports and video materials. The official fact sheet about how small farm lakes can support wildlife was published by the U.S. Geological Survey in its report, Farm Ponds Work for Wildlife. That's it. Okay. Whew. We don't have any idea where this was occurring technically. But
It didn't say.
no, I don't think so. Somewhere I'm guessing the eastern United States, but it's a
How did
large area.
how did this whole article not say where it was? Hmm, wait.
No.
Okay, that's just strange.
All right.
So basically,
Let's
the entire thing could have just been made up.
Yeah, let's head over to the next video. So we got a bull elk somewhere in the western United States, judging by the spruce. I think that's Colorado blue spruce in the background. These all these specific trees. So they're munching on certain grasses. Elk will feed, especially North American elk will feed on a variety of different species of grasses in the Rocky Mountain West that animals like white-tailed deer will not feed on. And even moose aren't too favorable when it comes to grass or even reindeer populations.
Wait, their heads just all go the same way at once?
Maybe. Oh, yeah. This also seems to be some part of the rut. So this could be um,
Okay,
early to late September. It could be like early mid October.
he's looking around. Now no, they looked one way, he looked the other. Now they're all looking the same way. And, the 2 of them move their head at the exact same time. Just thought it was funny.
Wonder where specifically. Definitely got some rain in the area. Rocky Mountain Elk.
Uh,
Oh, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. Could be could be anywhere where there's elk. Means to them. Okay, so Washington State, Oregon, but since there was quite a bit of Colorado blue spruce, unless it's become invasive in certain areas, I would think it's either Colorado, Utah, maybe some part of Wyoming. So, going back in time from Sci News, paleontologists unearthed new species of titanosaur in Argentina. A new genus and species of titanosaur sauropod dinosaur that lived during the Cretaceous period has been identified from the fossilized remains found in northern Patagonia, Argentina. So, okay, I'm guessing. I don't. We've had a lot of sauropods lately pop up at certain points in the end of the late Cretaceous, others towards the early stages of the Cretaceous, and a couple of them showing up when many that are somewhat familiar with the Titanosaur lineage of long necked sauropod dinosaurs showing up at around somewhere between 95 to 100 million years ago, where you had some of the largest species such as Patagotitan and Argentinosaurus. So let's see. Named Yanin Husayai, the new species roamed our planet approximately 83 million years ago. Okay, this is like right before the Campanian stage of the Cretaceous.
Mystic Mountain Morphs is back.
Hello. Welcome back to the Cretaceous period.
Mr. Reptile.
And let's see. So the ancient creature belongs to Titanosauridae, a group of large, long-necked plant-eating dinosaurs that were widespread across the supercontinent Gondwana. Yanin Husayai had a small head relative to the rest of its body, said Dr. Leonardo Filippi, a paleontologist at Connecticut and the Museo Municipal Argentino Urquiza. It measured between 10 and 12 meters or 30 to 39 feet in length. This is definitely on the smaller end for titanosaurs, considering this was also the group of sauropod dinosaurs that would become the largest land animals to exist. Um, let's see, what was another thing? Oh, so it weighed approximately 8 to 10 tons. So about almost the length of a T Rex, but also close to around the same weight as well. So this is still a smaller species of titanosaur. I do wonder, especially in this time period, maybe certain species of megaraptors, which also at this size they could have preyed on this specific individual. Considering megaraptors could reach over 33 feet, but that wasn't until the very end of the Cretaceous period, so around 68 million years ago. And then, at this point, you might have had smaller species, and these were related to the dromaeosaur raptors like Utahraptor, Velociraptor that more people are familiar with, but they were their own distinct group of Coelurosaurs. So, the fossil remains of Yanin Husayai were recovered from the Bajo de la Carpa Formation at a locality known as Cerro Overo la Invernada in the Neuquén province, Patagonia, Argentina. The material represents one of the most complete skeletons of a titanosaur from this region, preserving six cervical vertebrae, so six neck vertebrae, 10 dorsal vertebrae, it's referring to the tail vertebrae, with associated ribs, the sacrum, and the first caudal vertebrae. Believe that's referring to the back region. So, in addition to the holotype individual, the paleontologists identified remains of at least two other sauropods at the site, including a juvenile specimen and another adult titanosaur that appears to belong to a different, as yet undescribed species. This is really good to see. So, phylogenetic analysis indicates that Yanin husai is closely related to Narumbuena titan and Overosaurus. As a basal member of an unnominated clade of derived non-lithostrodian saltosauroids. Um, I am not too familiar with the Narumbuena titan. Overosaurus does sound very familiar. I believe it's a late Cretaceous species. So after 100 million years ago.
So Morph said, so around the time that whales decided to go back in the water.
Well, m- well, what happened was that you had it where mammals decided to venture into the water. So, yeah, there have been certain um, I think certain celebrities that mistook which evolution route was actually taken. So you had it where about 50 million years, somewhere between 50 to 55 million years ago, in the country of Pakistan, where you had a small carnivorous mammal about the size of like a, um, maybe trying to think, around a 50 to 100 pound pig or a little over, maybe what, um, trying to think real quick, 45 kilograms. And this animal, um, later took to the water somewhere around 45 to 50 million years ago with its later descendants, such as Ambulocetus, which also existed over in Pakistan. So, slowly over time, they would evolve much more webbed feet and also a much more elongated snout, a bit of a more like robust tail structure, and also a longer, more narrow, just core in general. And then you have it where about 35 to 40 million years ago is where you start seeing true whales evolving. And so this is towards the end of the Eocene epoch. And by the end of the Eocene, around 34 to 35 million years ago, is when you had quite a variety of different species of whales in the oceans. And many would be found in different fossil formations of Egypt. In fact, much of the Sahara Desert actually used to be underwater during the somewhat earlier middle Cenozoic era. Um, so you had it where, yeah, the mammals would venture into the water. You didn't really have any that necessarily left. You did have certain individuals closely related to the whale lineage that took certain semi-aquatic lifestyles, or being having a preference of both land and water, such as the different species of hippos, which are closely related to whales. Then you had a group of mammals called the entelodonts. So let's look up this specific animal. So, look up Archaeotherium. So Archaeoth. Okay. And I guess we could pull up Pakicetus as well. At least, okay. So Pakicetus.
That's very strange. All I put in was PA and it came up.
Hmm.
That's kinda creepy.
We just, I don't know. Okay. Well, this is not the, this. Okay. So this is a member of the entelodont lineage of mammals. And it was a huge debate as to what specifically these animals were closely related to, and for a while, it was considered animals like wild boars and pigs, warthogs, giant forest hogs over in Africa were the closest relatives to this. It was, in fact, regarded as the Terminator pig or the pig from hell. This is another instance. This is a really good drawing. These are supposed to be early canids or the um ancestors to the canid lineage. So lineage of mammals that lead on to wolves, foxes, coyotes. But when it comes to entelodonts such as Archaeotherium, so this animal was probably around 2 to 300 pounds, or somewhere between 100 to 150 kilograms. And this animal was likely an omnivore, but definitely had the ability to feed on the smaller species of camel, horses that roamed the Great Plains of North America around 30 million years ago during the Oligocene epoch.
This says it came from Ark.
I think he might have based it off of the one in the game. I don't remember what that specific animal looks like. But this is indeed a drawing. Even his signature's on it. It's pretty good. Um, but the teledonts are closely related to whales and not so much pigs. It was actually also theorized it might have been related to goats, but the whale, looking at their overall taxonomy, makes a much better fit. Oh, let's go over to the next picture, or the one of that Pakicetus.
What is oh,
So this is the ancestor to every modern day whale and dolphin of today. So this is the Pakicetus. So it was likely a carnivore in the region of Pakistan at the time, and also Pakistan was probably adjacent to quite a bit of ocean, whereas today it's very landlocked. They bordered by Iran, India. I don't think there's anybody else.
Okay, this is kinda funny.
That is Pakicetus, yeah. There have been certain instances where they give it almost like a, maybe not a babirusa, but just a more of an elongated hog snouted sort of look. Other ones where it looks more of like a that looks almost like a somewhat a shrew, a rat, and just a what's another thing? Maybe some sort of a canid. But, the point is that, yeah, it was they were very terrestrial mammals at the time and probably fed on different species of crustaceans, might have been going after even smaller mammals. Yeah, this one, they give him, yeah, a bit of a shrew sort of a look. It's definitely much larger than a shrew, but it is interesting. Very elongated tail as well, and they would eventually just become, um like switch its legs for flippers. And it really is interesting why evolution decided to take this sort of a turn. They even had distinct ears as well. And you could say, like, well, I mean, this is not necessarily a rare or an odd trait to find terrestrial mammals, but the fact is that eventually this animal in its evolution is going to lose its ears altogether. It's still here, but it's not going to have any exterior ears. And also the whales for some point in time would have hind flippers, so they would be quite usable, but then they would eventually lose them. This also would be somewhat the great uncle or ancestor to the present day dugongs or the sea cows that you find in certain areas of the Caribbean, Florida, Australia, certain parts of Southeast Asia, and even Eastern Africa.
Uh, Mystic Mountain said vole? What vole? Are you saying does it look like a vole?
Um, I guess you could say it's somewhat the fur texture, but voles are. I'd say if anything, maybe the tail might look similar to a vole, but not so much the overall um, physical structure. Now, if you're asking that whether or not these animals derived from vole-sized mammals, the answer is yes. Back in the Mesozoic era, or the time of the dinosaurs.
Oh, you're frozen.
Oh, whoa! How long ago was that even showing the it wasn't showing the other,
You're not frozen live.
oh, that's strange.
No, you're just frozen on, you are not frozen here, you're just frozen here.
Okay. Oh, yeah, it wasn't hitting me. It would likely be a fish eater as well, but it would go after crustaceans too. So, um, how do we get to whales? Oh, right, there was a question about or they went back to the water? You didn't ever have it where whales became terrestrial mammals. It was always terrestrial mammals becoming the whales. If anything, the whales would either create a variety of other types of species, or they would simply die out, which they become quite. There becomes quite a variety, especially once you hit the Miocene epoch. I mean, even to the Oligocene as well. So, but definitely around 20 million years ago, and you have a wide range of species. And then, as you hit into the Pliocene, you start seeing large species of toothed whales coexisted with giant sharks such as Otodus megalodon. And even megalodon had to be quite careful with these species of whales because they had larger teeth than he did. I would say his teeth might be wider, but they had teeth even larger than T Rex's teeth. Maybe even compared to most of the large crocodilomorphs that existed in different times of the Cenozoic era as well as the Mesozoic. Oh yeah, the entelodonts. So yeah, these animals they first evolved over in North America right when the Great Plains started appearing, or you started seeing the first true grasslands, and also when you started seeing some of the first planes, horses, and also when camels first evolved. Technically, horses evolved much earlier in the Paleocene, around 56 million years ago. So the evidence, heading back to the article, the evidence provided by the Serra Overo La Invernata sauropod titanosaur fauna suggests that during the Santonian, I'm guessing this is the specific epoch in the late Cretaceous period that these sauropods were found in, around 83 million years ago. Species diversity was relatively high in that at least two lineages coexisted: Solosauridae and Saltosauroideae. These are the two lineages of Titanosaur, families more specifically. This finding makes the Serra Overo La Invernata area the one with the greatest diversity of titanosaurs for the Santonian of the New Queen Basin, which makes it an exceptional area to understand the evolution of dinosaur faunas for this period. Okay, well, this is really good to see. Um,
I hate to break in, I fixed it. I don't know why the entire left 2 screens went down, or right 2 screens.
um, well, good, it's back up. It's unfortunate that we don't know what specifically the other two sauropods were. It's possible it was more of the species, but we don't know. I just said they found two others, including a juvenile specimen, which is really good because juveniles, besides certain species of dinosaurs, they're overall not common to find. It's good whenever we hear that we found a juvenile.
Misty Mountain says his snakes have legs.
Um, well, yeah, that is true with certain species, just not hitting me at the moment.
Snakes have legs?
Or at least their ancestors did, unless I'm thinking of specifically, um,
You said his do.
am I thinking of possibly certain ancestors, which they did? It's like, actually, it wasn't too long ago that we even found a new species of, well, proto snake, you could say, because this was back, I believe, in the Triassic period, somewhere around 240 to 250 million years ago. So before the first dinosaurs, probably preceding them by 5 million years. And you had it where it was almost like somebody took a crocodile monitor and a snake and sort of mushed them together. It was almost a bit of an uneven sort of core as well, but they were quite lizard-like. Those are the snakes, but even then, they weren't true snakes. They were proto snakes. That would eventually lead on into snakes, especially with snakes becoming quite common within the Jurassic period, and then definitely the Cretaceous, likely feeding on small dinosaurs. Okay, so heading on to Hedgehog Cabin. Trail Cam not only allows you to keep an eye on your hedgehog house and its occupants' health, even now while your hedgehog hibernates, you'll discover all sorts of secret goings on in that nice tucked away, undisturbed corner of your garden. Okay, let's see what happened. Oh boy, here's a fox, a red fox. I think it's red fox. He's sniffing for something. Or they're berries, or maybe he's smelling the hedgehogs as well. Oh, he noticed the camera. Was that a crestle? Falcon? I don't think it's a hawk. Hmm. He captured a bird? Looks like there might be feathers at his feet. I can't tell. He's just looking around. Seemed to have been chewing on something or swallowing it.
It's just a solar eclipse.
They don't have any teeth. Yeah, true. Okay, so we have a squirrel. Not sure what specific species. Could be a gray squirrel, but there are a wide variety of different species of tree squirrels. And might have buried a nut.
It's just nuts.
That too. And he could even be looking for a certain species of fungi, maybe even
Ah!
insects. He keeps getting spooked. I think it's the camera. Is that a rat? Or yep. I don't know if it's a native species or one of the invasive ones. Well, okay. We don't know exactly where this is occurring either. If it's in Europe, then it's definitely an invasive species of rat because rats are not native to Europe. If it's North America, it could very much depend. Okay, let's head on to the next article. That was a bit of a question. From IndianDefenseReview.com, meet the specter bat, the world's largest carnivorous bat, feared for decades until cameras revealed the truth. Infrared footage from Costa Rica reveals the secret social life of the world's largest carnivorous bat, and it's nothing like its fearsome reputation. I could understand that as to why people would have feared it, because at first glance, this does look like something that might, um, you know, suck your blood. But besides that, he does somewhat look
He answered the question about the it says it has claws at the back of the cloaca
cloaca,
cloaca
reproductive
areas
area.
and, 2 small claws on the bottom part of the tail that are remnants of having legs in the past evolution.
Um, it's just specifically when it comes to the species, just not hitting me. The spectral bat has long occupied an awkward space in the scientific literature. Too rare to study systematically, too intimidating to approach casually. It existed for most of the 20th century as a collection of specimens and reputation. Natural history guides described a solitary predator with a 3 foot wingspan, or 3.3 feet. Well, I was almost a meter. A creature that emerged at dusk to hunt birds and small mammals in the forest from southern Mexico to Brazil. The name Vampirum spectrum suggests something spectral, almost mythical. Oh, okay, this makes sense. So one of these bats. All right. And for those that don't know, Central America is part of Northern South America, not North America. So just so once you hit south of the Mexico border, you're in South America. What no one had ever seen was how it lived when the sun was up. The roost remained a closed box, and the bat inside remained an abstraction. Uh, like, as in this bat was trapped in a box? Oh, let's take a look. In late 2023, a team of researchers managed to open that box. They installed a motion sensitive infrared camera inside a hollow tree in Costa Rica where a family of 4 spectral bats was roosting. Oh, okay, it was a figure of speech. Over the following months, the camera recorded more than 500 videos. What emerged was not a portrait of a solitary hunter, but something stranger. A cooperative, physically affectionate family unit that shared food, greeted returning members with wing wrapped embraces, and slept in a tightly clustered ball with all snouts touching. Wow, this is a very social and bonding bat species. This is really good to see. The study published in the journal Plus One. There he is, provides the first detailed description of social behavior in a wild vampirum spectrum group. Researchers
Is he
Marissa,
tagged?
I don't see any tags. No, that's his nose.
Oh,
Let's see. So, Eduardo Artavia Duran and Murham Nornschild placed the camera approximately 2 meters, 6.5 feet from the bat's primary roosting site inside a living Manaucara chicle tree in the tropical dry forest of Guanacaste, Costa Rica. The camera captured footage over 60 days, triggered by movement each time a bat entered or exited. So the spectral bat has long been described as a solitary predator with a 3 foot wingspan that hunts across neotropical forests. I'm guessing it's focusing on insects. Maybe it goes after small birds occasionally.
but didn't it say it was a vampire bat?
Oh. No, I don't think
Oh, I
so.
thought you said that.
No. So the group consisted of 4 individuals based on observable features, including size differences, the visibility of the female's teats, and the eventual visibility of the male's penis. The researchers identified them as a breeding pair and 2 offspring from different years. The older pup remained with the parents after the birth of a new pup, indicating extended cohabitation, unusual among carnivorous bats. Yeah, this is quite interesting and abnormal for bats in general. Background information on the species from the Animal Diversity Web confirms that these bats typically form small roosting groups consisting of a mated pair and their young. Data from the recordings showed the bats engaged in 8 main types of behavior, including social interactions, food provision, and play. Bats returning to the roost with prey were observed voluntarily transferring food to younger bats. In one sequence, the adult male brought prey to the lactating female. Wow, it's like a wolf, it's like a wolf pack almost. Hey, there they are. Huh, wow.
We blow that. Nope. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. There. It's kind of hard to tell what you're looking at.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I'm looking at a bunch of ears, but and a bunch of noses.
Okay, so let's see. The study notes that this prey provision likely serves as a method for adults to transition young bats from milk to a carnivorous diet, allowing them to practice handling large prey items before they are capable of hunting on their own. An overview published by IFL Science describes the species as the largest carnivorous bat in the world, with a wingspan approaching 1 meter, 3.3 feet. The footage also documented physical interactions that researchers had not anticipated. When a bat returned to the roost after an absence, another bat would greet it by wrapping a wing around its body and what the researchers described as a social greeting similar to a hug. Bats regularly groomed each other and made social vocalizations. When the group settled to sleep, they formed a tight cluster described in the study as a cuddle ball, with each bat wrapping one wing around its nearest neighbor and all snouts touching. Wow. It's almost like people. Hmm. So it is the largest bat in the Western Hemisphere. So North America, South America. The study challenged previous assumptions about foraging behavior. For decades, researchers assumed Vampirum spectrum hunted alone. Camera data showed multiple instances of bats leaving or returning to the roost together. The report notes that this suggests they sometimes undertake cooperative foraging trips, perhaps as a way for younger bats to develop hunting skills. Prey transfer from the adult male to lactating female was also observed, hunting supporting the idea that foraging is not strictly solitary. A Eureka Alert news release covering the findings emphasized that these observations represent the first documented evidence of food sharing and social greetings in wild spectral bats. Oh, whoa. They've got a rat or a mouse or something. Okay, so they're definitely not just going after insects. Whoa, okay. Yep, maybe even a young possum. Who knows?
It's funny because right there, it almost looks like it's a rhino.
This, oh yeah, it does. This could I could understand where certain folklores came from, and like even certain things to do with Halloween. This specific individual, yet it's so cooperative and bonding, unlike most bats. Oh, some chart over here. Eye distance pixels, approaching bat, prey carrying bat. I'm confused. So, lead author Marissa Tieg said in a statement, "We were astonished by how gentle and cooperative these apex predators are. The most endearing behavior was forming a tight cuddle ball when falling asleep. Each bat wrapped one wing around its nearest neighbor, all snouts touching." The International Union for Conservation of Nature assessed the Byram spectrum as near threatened in 2018 with a decreasing population trend. So, it's referring to this specific bat species genus. The assessment, available through the IUCN Red List, notes that the species is forest dependent and requires primary forest habitat. Local threats include habitat fragmentation and destruction. Because the species occurs in low densities anywhere it is found, it is extremely susceptible to population decline from habitat loss. The new behavioral data adds a layer of complexity to those conservation concerns. If spectral bats rely on extended family groups for teaching young, reinforcing pair bonds through physical contact, and potentially coordinating hunting efforts, then population viability cannot be measured solely by numbers of individuals.
Okay, Mystic Mountain Morphin said something weird. Depends on the bat and its condition. I'd let it bite me, but certain species do carry bacteria and viruses that would I'd rather not contract. Well, yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't think you'd just be preferable. You don't want any of them biting you. But yeah, this guy, I mean, it's quite interesting. It's like ancient, uh, it's just amazing, like just how bonding this specific species is. I haven't heard this in any species of bat, and it doesn't sound like the researchers have seen this either. Let's see. Because this species occurs in low densities anywhere it is found, it is extremely susceptible to population decline from habitat loss. The new behavioral data adds a layer of complexity to those conservation concerns. If spectral bats rely on extended family groups for teaching young, reinforcing pair bonds through physical contact, and potentially coordinating hunting efforts, then population viability cannot be measured solely by numbers of individuals. The integrity of the social unit itself becomes a factor. Habitat fragmentation that isolates family groups could disrupt these cooperative behaviors in ways that are not captured by standard population counts. Tiggs also described an unexpected interaction with the bats themselves. In a statement, she said, I was astonished to find that the bats seemed to recognize me after several consecutive weeks of visiting the roost. At first, I was greeted with threat like calls, and the bats broke their roosting formation to hide in the corners. But over time, their response shifted to just a few curious looks, no vocalizations, and they remained in a relaxed roosting formation. Even after 9 months away, let's see. They appeared to recognize me immediately when I returned the following season. Yeah, I think it's been underestimated with a lot of species of mammals, especially the smaller ones, that even the larger ones, that they have a very short memory. And you have it with a wide variety. Like they haven't seen certain people in over 8 years or sometimes longer. I think I'm thinking of an incident with like lions. They're raised by a specific woman. They were sent to a rescue center. And yeah, they immediately recognized her. Um, and the same is gone for like hyenas and other animals. But even when it comes to like bats, raccoons, um, maybe different species of marsupials, they remember. But it is kind of interesting. I was expecting maybe them to possibly attack her when um, she first popped up, but apparently they just hid, which is also a good evolutionary trait. They don't have to get into conflict with the animal. Why bother? Especially in a you know this type of a survival situation, and with nobody else to also help back them up. So this is really good to see. Let's head over to the next video. Okay, so we got a trail camera, and it seems to be American black bear somewhere in the eastern United States. Oh, she's got cubs.
Yeah, I just thought this was funny.
Oh, somewhere in the spring.
Wait,
I
wait,
wouldn't,
wait,
oh,
wait! I'm coming.
oh yeah. I wouldn't say they were recently born, but they're pretty small. Hmm. I wonder if it's growing around them.
Wait, wait,
Seem to
I'm.
be smaller trees.
Uh,
Oh,
uh,
he
uh, uh.
found he found the camera.
Get at the floor. I don't want you watching us anymore.
Yeah, it's literally what it looks like. Sometimes I wonder how many cameras bear cubs come into contact with, and so they just point them towards the ground because they want the privacy too. They just know. Okay, so heading on to the next article from iflscience.com. Hybrid mammoth fossils discovered in Canada reveal thousands of years of interbreeding. Two fossilized teeth belonging to hybrids of woolly and Columbian mammoths have been found.
Wait, I have a question. Um, Mystic Mountain said, "I love hearing about new or newly discovered species. Are you referring to old species discovered or ones that are still in existence? Because there's a lot of stuff that he goes over that I've never heard of that are articles from 15 years ago.
Well, that long necked sauropod dinosaur that we went over a bit earlier, that was a new species. What's going on here? No,
Wait,
the
that was a new species?
Well, it was a new species of sauropod.
I know, but I was asking, is he referring to current living animals
Oh,
or
well, yeah, I mean, we go over, both, but, this instance, Columbian I don't remember exactly when Columbian mammoths were first discovered. Woolly mammoths, that's a hard one. They've at least been studied since the 16 or 1700s. Like, Thomas Jefferson and Ben Franklin were going over, woolly mammoth specimens. Let's see. No, not woolly mammoth. They were going over American mastodon, completely different animal, but still woolly mammoths go back pretty far. Extensive studying has at least been done since the 1800s. So, um, guess let's keep going.
oh, it doesn't move up. What why do they do oh, wait a minute, my bad. There you go.
So, yeah, these are all just woolly mammoths. So, mammoth species in North America repeatedly interbred over thousands of years, creating hybrid offspring, a new fossil analysis has revealed. The findings alter what we know about the evolution of these ice age giants and how they responded to dramatic climate shifts. Well, if you're talking about the steppe mammoth and then the Colombian, actually, let's look up a Colombian mammoth. So, yeah, Columbie.
Wait, I messed
And no, these are not from Colombia. They're named after the Columbia River over in Washington State, which I believe travels further south into Oregon. You had Columbian mammoths roaming a large portion of the lower 48 or the United States. The steppe mammoth, not so much. That was much further north. Okay, so yeah, here's one picture. It's a bit of an odd. It's almost like those. It's another dinosaur drawings or models. Okay, so I believe this is over at the Museum of Natural History over in Los Angeles, and this is a Columbian mammoth specimen. So this animal had some of the longest tusks that we've ever discovered of mammoths, like reaching over 16 feet in length. They're pushing around 5 meters. And this animal could reach somewhere around 13 feet in height or pushing 4 meters tall, as well as weighing around 10 to 12 tons. So about the size of T Rex when it comes to the weight, just not so much the length. I think Columbian mammoths were somewhere around, if you're including the tusks, oh, geez. Maybe
up.
around 30, 30 feet at least, maybe 35 feet. Or pushing around 9 to almost 11 meters. Okay, this is definitely Elephas imperator. I think this is another species. Oh, I think it's supposed to be the Asian elephant. It's just a much straighter tusked one. This is not a common look of Asian elephants when it comes to tusk structure. Their tusks usually are pointed towards the ground, which is interesting. It's a very not necessarily mammoth like, despite them being closely related to mammoths, but it's more of like the straight tusked elephants of Europe back in the Pleistocene or the Ice Age, such as Paleoxodon. Actually, let's see, it was another animal. Oh, well, yeah, here's a somewhat furry Colombian mammoth. It might have been of just a northern population, and they were possibly much more furrier
Wait, did you
than
finish saying why they call them Colombian mammoths?
their southern counterparts. Oh, because they were found also amongst the Columbia River over in Washington State.
Oh, okay.
Not found in Colombia. No mammoths reached South America. There were certain Colombian mammoths that could reach Mexico, and the central region of the state. About as almost a little further south, actually much further south. I was going to compare it to like black bear populations today in Mexico, but they could get to Oaxaca, Mexico, in that region. And I believe there are even tar pits in the area as well, like the La Brea tar pits over in California. So you would have also had saber-toothed cats like Smilodon fatalis, dire wolves, and possibly American lions in the region, and maybe mastodons. So, these animals are probably having to take in somewhere around 300 pounds of food a day at least, or a little over 140 kilograms. Also, mostly consisting of different species of grasses on the mammoth steppe. So, the grasslands of the United States, of North America in general, all the way down to Mexico, would have been quite different than the grasslands that we see today. The grasslands today would simply have not been able to supply um, the nutrition requirements for the mammoths.
Was there something else you wanted?
Oh, right. What was it? The steppe mammoth, maybe? So STEPPE for steppe, then mammoth. So this animal, the steppe mammoth, would have hybridized with the woolly mammoth to create the Columbian mammoth. So the Columbian mammoth is a bit of a more recent addition to the landscape, especially over in North America. Well, technically, the woolly mammoth hasn't been around for too long. Many tend to view the woolly mammoth as being around since the beginning of the Ice Age. it really wasn't around for too long, just a few 100,000 years. So yeah, the steppe mammoth, I guess, tends to be viewed as being a bit less furry than the woolly mammoth, but furrier still than the Columbian mammoth. So Mammothus trigontheri is its name. And these specific animals were also more closely related to today's Asian elephants as opposed to bush or forest elephants. They were
Yeah,
also
this
quite.
picture looks like they're related to
Oh, if this is supposed to be a steppe mammoth, yeah, they definitely added a lot more musculature to these individuals. As you can tell, they're not extremely furry. They've got some fur, but this is a really good depiction. And it's also over on a grassland. This is really good to see. The tusks are quite robust. They gave it a very muscular trunk. I like that look. And they still gave them short ears, but almost relative to their body size, like Asian elephants. Woolly mammoths might have been even smaller. They still would have created a lot of different communication systems, or it's very likely like today's elephants. Though, since they're out in the grasslands, it's going to be a lot easier for those low frequency sound waves that they create, especially through rumbles that we can't hear, to travel through the landscape. It's going to be harder for animals like mastodons, which tend to inhabit the forests of the Pleistocene North America and South America as well.
Mystic Mountain said, Columbian River Gorge is between Washington and Oregon, and I believe is the longest stretching gorge in the United States, one of the longest in the world.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So yeah, that is specifically where the Columbian mammoth is named from. And it was interesting because I was confused for a long time, and also this was many years back. But I didn't think it was coming from the state of, or country of Colombia because I'm like pretty sure there aren't any mammoths over in South America. Um, but yeah, when it comes to the steppe mammoth, it is interesting. It was just named after the steppe. um, but yeah, it and the woolly mammoth would hybridize to become the Columbian mammoth. Steppe mammoths were somewhere around, I think, 8 to 10 tons, possibly even a bit larger. Yeah, I would think they would be larger because um, the woolly mammoth was about the size of an Asian elephant today. So not usually reaching much more than 6 tons. That's a big woolly mammoth. I would say though, in some cases, they would be probably a bit stockier than other elephant or mammoth species. Columbian mammoths have a much more elongated sort of physique. I would say the steppe mammoths were a bit stockier compared to the um, Columbian mammoths, but Columbian mammoths, I guess, just gained more in elongated height, at least. Well, here's the thing: I might have to correct myself on that, considering they're just overall compared to woolly mammoths much more um, taller in structure.
The time has come has said, how many types of elephants were there?
At least 40 different kinds. If you're heading all the way back to the Eocene, possibly even the Paleocene epoch, when the earliest somewhat elephant-like ancestors would evolve somewhere between 50 to 56 million years ago, and probably inhabiting certain parts of Africa at that point. Now, and we're also talking about animals that are probably about the size of a dog, and I'm referring to like something not weighing much more than 20 pounds or a little over 8 kilograms. So they were very small at that point.
Wait,
And
wait, that's not the pygmies?
no, 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 that was much later in time. I'm talking about their earliest ancestors, and then go further back, and they were arboreal, and
Wait,
they were.
the elephants were in the trees?
Well, their earlier ancestors, yes, would have been small shrew-like animals that would have been up in the trees, maybe even made small burrows, and eventually they would become a bit larger. And you start seeing large sizes late into the Eocene. And what I mean by that is pushing probably about 3 to 600 pounds, or somewhere between like 140 to what 290 kilograms.
Mystic
So
Mountain said, is it the Indian elephant or the Asian elephant that still has some hair as an adult on the top of its head or elbows?
technically, I guess it's probably been more common Asian elephants, and Indian elephants are a specific subspecies of Asian elephant. They're one of the three subspecies. There's the Indian elephant, Malaysian elephant, or Malayan elephant, and the Indonesian, or actually no. Um, I believe the Sumatran elephant is pretty much the same thing as the Malayan elephant. Indian elephant Malayan elephant and the Sri Lankan elephants. The Sri Lankan elephants are the smallest subspecies of Asian elephant, technically the smallest population of elephants today, over on the island of Sri Lanka.
Who's the largest?
Which bush elephant population in Africa is the largest?
Oh, so it
Hmm.
is the bush elephant.
Might be the ones over in Kenya, like Tsavo East, Tsavo West National Park, or it's somewhere over in South Africa. I don't know for sure. I actually have to look into that. Definitely not the forest elephants.
Want me to
But
close this?
yeah, sure. The steppe mammoths is where the Columbian mammoths would have attained their height from. I was wrong of me to suggest that they were stockier than the woolly mammoths, because
This it?
that is where they would
No,
attain their
that's not
height.
it.
No,
What?
it's the bats. Oh, okay. So the findings alter what we know about the evolution of these ice age giants and how they responded to dramatic climate shifts. Because in the ice age and the Pleistocene, you would have had many different glacial maximums, so where the glaciers would have superseded or just overtaken a large area of land, forcing animals to migrate further south and also be situated in certain valleys within those specific glacier areas. And then other times when they would retreat, you would have warmer periods. So it has generally been assumed that the woolly mammoth, Mammothus primigenus, which lived in what is now Canada and the northern USA, and the Columbian mammoth, Mammothus columbi, which was found further south, didn't have much to do with one another. The two species are adapted to different climates and food sources, and as little is known about the extent of interbreeding between them, it was thought that they lived largely independent lives, but that appears not to be the case. Okay, so two fossilized teeth belonging to different mammoths have been unearthed in Canada, and genetic analysis has revealed they were both hybrids of woolly and Columbian mammoths. Okay, so this isn't a steppe mammoth and woolly mammoth creating Columbian. This is a Columbian and woolly mammoth creating something else. The researchers responsible for the work believe that woolly mammoths expanded south into North America during glacial periods. Imagine that. Woolly mammoths coming much further south when the glaciers were um, encroaching on more southern areas, especially of Canada, where they mingled and bred with Columbian mammoths. What's more, the discovery proves there was in fact long-term hybridization between these two species. Whoa. The youngest of the two fossils, which hails from around 25,000 years ago, this is recent, contained more Columbian mammoth DNA, 35%, than the other 21%, approximately 36,000 years old. Still recent. And around the time of certain massive, like some of the coldest ice ages to occur during the Pleistocene. This led the researchers to conclude that the two species of mammoth interbred many times over several thousand years. Appending what we traditionally know about evolution, these findings contribute to a growing understanding that hybridization has been an important factor in evolution. In fact, many species have arisen this way, which isn't the standard Darwinian idea of how evolution happened.
So Floppy Rabbit over on Kick said, "So we have a bunch of mutts."
Yeah, especially occurring around here. Let's see. Um, um, that's interesting. I would have thought that Darwin would have assumed in some instances you would have had certain types of mutts creating distinct type of thing. This doesn't sound
Yeah,
so
but how
good.
much stuff was Darwin actually wrong on?
Well, sir. I mean, there
People?
were. I would think that there were a number of things. I mean, especially when he assumed that we came from, or hominids came from directly from monkeys. Now, is it true that exactly that's what he said, or was he trying to point to a sort of monkey-like creature, which would be true, but not specifically a monkey? Whatever this primate was, would branch off into the monkeys, the apes, and of course us. But yeah, that's my question. Is like something I find that a bit odd for him not to um like agree with or figure out. So Professor Adrian Lister, who co authored the new research, explained in a new statement seen by IFL Science. We think of a lineage changing through time and a branching tree with species diverging, but what can happen is a cross link with two species hybridizing, producing a new branch. Unless Darwin literally only believed in specifically an animal creating something different because of changes in the climate, the ecosystem, all these other outside um, components or just occurrences that would affect the animal and eventually become its own thing, which is very possible. Still, though, let's see. I'll go further down. So, in addition, taking a closer look at the hybrid sex chromosomes suggested that interspecies encounters were mostly between male Columbian mammoths and female woolly mammoths. Huh. Well, I guess that would probably make sense. Female Columbian mammoths might be a bit tall.
That was good.
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, you're looking at where, the male woolly mammoths, what, a 10 foot, 10 feet or about 3 meters, probably average for, I'd say a male, woolly mammoth, and the female is probably a bit shorter. So female Columbian mammoths, male Columbian mammoths, probably about 13 to 14 feet. So I would think that the females are probably somewhere around 10 to 11 feet, so around the same height. So that'd be a bit challenging. So here we have, I'm guessing, the jawbone of a, is it the hybrid? It's a hybrid. Whoa.
Yeah, I was
Hmm.
wondering why you couldn't recognize that fast.
Well, also it's like here, this is the root of the mammoth jaw. Um, this is where
Did
the
you mean the
chewing would
root of the
occur.
tooth?
Yeah, the root, the um,
Yeah, you said the
the,
jaw.
the
It's
crown. Oh, so this is where all the chewing would occur. And as you can see, it's quite flat, very little like extreme rigidness.
Wait a minute, what was the difference between mammoth and mastodon teeth?
So mastodon teeth, they're very. You could say this over here might be a bit closer to what a mastodon tooth would look like, but still very distinct. Let's just say it's a large molar, but it has extremely deep, serrated areas, which is used to help slice the different leaf material from trees that they're feeding on. Probably feeding occasionally on shrubs or bushes as well. Mammoths were not suited for that type of vegetation. That's why, especially towards the end of the Ice Age and Pleistocene, you had it where forests were encroaching in different areas, and some areas you might have had it where it wasn't necessarily forest, but the grasses that they were feeding on changed, and they simply couldn't sustain themselves on these new types of grasses. And then in other circumstances, the trees or the forest would have had a big negative impact. So mammoths were extensively grazers. Let's see. The findings build on a study from 2021 when the same team uncovered evidence of mammoth hybrids in Krestovka, Siberia. Of course, it's Siberia, which is over. Siberia is essentially eastern and central Russia. When they extracted 1.2 million year old DNA from a steppe mammoth, Mammoth trigontheri tooth at the time, it was the oldest DNA ever recovered. Oh, yeah. I think I remember this. So, analysis revealed that the Krestovka mammoth belonged to a distinct lineage of steppe mammoths that bred with woolly mammoths in a hybridization event that is thought to have given rise to the Columbian mammoth.
Mystic Mountain said, not far from here, 2 to 3 years ago, a kid was playing off the river in Southern Oregon and came across a mammoth tusk or tooth.
Oh yeah, well, I mean that's certainly
Can
very
can we just read something on that?
probable. Um, and over in Washington or Oregon, I don't recall.
Hmm.
Certain mammoth, I mean not mammoth, mastodon occurrences in the east, adjacent to New York City, literally part of New York City, somebody's backyard. But no, not that I recall mammoth. That is really neat though. Interesting. Um, so let's see. So such hybridization events increase genetic diversity in mammoth populations, which tends to improve a species' chance of adapting to environmental change. Understanding how mammoths evolved in response to the changing conditions of the Ice Age could have implications for other ancient animals. and even modern species like elephants. The approach we've taken to investigate these mammoths could potentially be applied to other extinct animals as well. By reconstructing their history, we'll be able to see the role that hybridization has played in the evolution of the species we see today. Mice are told the Natural History Museum, London. Understanding how species can mitigate environmental change is very important at the moment. We can look to past climate change to help with that. We know that mammoths ultimately didn't survive the end of the ice age, and delving into their adaptability could help us better understand why. Well, they lived for a bit longer over on certain small islands off the coast of Greece, Alaska, California. There might have been a few other places,
Are those the little ones?
very small. Some reached barely the size of little larger than cats in some instances,
Wait, wait,
or
are
small
those the
dogs.
dwarfs?
Yeah, those are the true pygmies,
Pygmies.
like, probably weighing somewhere around, yeah, 15 to 30 pounds or, maybe 8 to 7 to maybe 10 kilograms. They were tiny. We're going to take a 2-minute break. We'll be right back. Alrighty.
That was
I think that
funny.
was the end of that one. Okay, that was good to see. That was definitely an interesting percentage. I swear though, it felt like something was missing with what we saw within those mammoths and woolly mammoths and Colombian mammoth hybrids. Um,
More bears.
because it only mentioned like the 21 and 35%. So okay, well, let's head back to current times. Some American black bear in what is this? Canada by the looks of it. Could be somewhere like Minnesota though. We definitely found the camera.
Yeah, that's why I liked it. Oh,
Wow,
he's
there.
getting
Oh,
bugged.
whoa! Are those mosquitoes? Oh, geesh. I'll
Yep.
go find some mud. think, I think he's asking for help.
I need some off. My
He's,
God, they're
he's
I
really.
I can't tell. Are they moths or are they
I
mosquitoes?
think they're mosquitoes. There are mosquitoes over in Minnesota, large parts of Canada, even Alaska. So, um,
He turned the camera.
or maybe he's trying to film.
Yeah.
Alrighty, from the dodo. It's been a little bit. Gentle boa constrictor has spent 4 years in shelter waiting for a home. Jeez. He's impressively large for a 10-year-old. Bernard is about 10 years old and lives in Brighton, UK. His dark eyes resemble shiny marbles, and he's almost 8 feet tall or long. Also, Bernard is a boa constrictor. Oh, there he is. Yes,
He's
he looks
named Bernard.
he looks decently healthy. So, for almost 1,500 days, Bernard has lived at the RSPCA England and Wales Brighton Animal Center, making him the rescue's longest staying snake, according to a Facebook post. While he's an impressively large snake, he is a true gentle giant at heart.
It didn't
Yeah,
say the longest animal they've had there. It just said snake.
yeah, wonderful presence in any room. Bernard is stunning with sleek tan and brown markings. He made his debut at the RSPCA in December 2021 and has been slithering around their facility ever since. In photos, Bernard can be seen resting his large head on volunteers' knees and lounging in their laps. He would make an excellent addition to the family.
What if you have cats?
Um, yeah, I don't think I've ever seen them with cats, but there's bound to be certain cats that get along with pythons. They're very unique ones. The only things to keep in mind about adopting Bernard are his unique needs as an enormous boa constrictor. Requires um, an enclosure that is at least 8 feet long, 3 feet tall, and 3 feet wide. Seems a bit short. Um, Many commenters on the post about Bernard expressed concern over this enclosure recommendation, but the RSPCA England and Wales assured everyone that Bernard's well being is their sole focus. We advocate for enclosures that allow snakes to fully stretch out to standard support by growing scientific evidence.
Whoa, whoa,
Our
whoa, whoa!
specialists
Fully stretch out. He's how long?
thought they said 10 feet. He's an 8 foot thing. Our specialist reptile center is highly experienced in rehoming large snakes and will only place Bernard with an expert keeper who can provide a safe, enriched environment that meets these standards. Yeah, he's got a decent amount of weight on him. Bernard also needs special lighting and heat sources to ensure a long, healthy life, and boas do live long lives. Well, he's in the UK. Of course, he needs heat. The Royal Veterinary College at the University of London says that if boas are cared for well in captivity, they can live for 30 years or more. Yeah, same picture further up. And this means Bernard will keep his new family company until 2046 or so. Okay. Um, just funny ending. All right. Well, did anybody adopt him?
No,
So he's just waiting.
he's waiting.
Okay, I guess that's kind of sad. Wow. Is this real footage? This isn't like a Peter Rabbit copyright. They had a herd of animals rob the market.
No, they're recording him. So
So some red deer over in.
I don't know where this is.
Yeah, I can't tell either.
It's not in this country.
Somewhere in Europe, I think, unless it's like New Zealand, which there are red deer herds in New Zealand. Anyway, I'm glad he's having food, but I feel a bit concerned about whoever's selling this.
You mean
That's
selling the food that
yeah,
he's eating? Well,
it's definitely. I'm not sure if it's the rut or
he doesn't look too aggressive.
no. Okay, from SciTechDaily.com. Paleontologists discover a lost world. Ancient cave preserves life from 1 million years ago. So we got a Kakapau, Kiwi, these two distinct New Zealand birds. So let's see. So in a cave system near Watomo on Aotearoa's North Island, scientists have uncovered a compact deposit of ancient bones that captures New Zealand at a moment the fossil record rarely preserves. The find is the first time researchers have recovered such a large set of fossils from around 1 million years ago, and it includes a surprise an early relative of the kakapow, the famously hefty parrot that today cannot fly. They tend to just jump around a lot. The site holds remains from 12 bird species and 4 frog species, giving researchers an unusually detailed sample of the wildlife that once lived in the region. Because caves can act like natural storage vaults, preserving fragile bones that would normally disappear in open landscapes, discoveries like this can reveal entire communities rather than isolated specimens. The research published in Alcarigna, an Australasian journal of paleontology, argues that New Zealand's
Wait,
ecosystems.
wait, did you say Australasian?
Yeah.
What is an Australasian?
I think it's supposed to kind of represent.
Australia Asian?
Well, it's like Oceania, which is the continent that Australia is a part of. Um, Specifically, it's also connected to like Indonesia. It's like half of Papua New
So that's
Guinea.
what it is. It's an Australian slash Asian journal.
Yeah. I think like the island of Komodo, where the Komodo dragons are, is like in this specific realm. So it argues that New Zealand's ecosystems were being repeatedly reshaped long before humans arrived. And well, I mean, I'd say the Aborigines wouldn't have changed too much. Um, but instead of a stable cast of species enduring and unchanged for millennia, the evidence points to dramatic turnovers linked to severe climate shifts and major volcanic events, with extinctions followed by replacements as habitats transformed. Lead author is Flinders University Associate Professor Trevor Worthy says the study changes the baseline for understanding what natural once looked like in New Zealand. This is a newly recognized avifauna for New Zealand, one that was replaced by the one humans encountered a million years later, says Associate Professor Worthy from the College of Science and Engineering at Flinders University. Okay, so this is specifically taking place over, at least a study in Australia, though the fossils were found in New Zealand. This remarkable find suggests our ancient forests were home to a diverse group of birds that did not survive the next million years. The fossils were examined by paleontologists from Flinders University and Canterbury Museum, working alongside volcanologist Joel Baker from the University of Auckland and Simon Barker of Victoria University of Wellington. Their analysis suggests that roughly 33 to 50% of species disappeared during the million years leading up to human settlement in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Whoa, that's a lot. I mean, we don't know exactly who or what was here, but um that's quite interesting. According to co-author Dr. Paul Scofield, senior curator of natural history at Canterbury Museum, these losses were linked to rapid environmental change and large-scale volcanic events. From our excavations at St. Bathans in central Otago over many years, we have a snapshot of life in Aotearoa between 20 and 16 million years ago. These
Uh,
new
Misty Mountain said something strange. Said idea on oldest known human settlement in North America being found in the more desert part of northeasternish part of Oregon.
like my ideas on it.
No,
I
no, it just put it in there.
oh
Or yeah, thoughts. I guess it says idea on. I don't know if he's referring to himself or
um I definitely haven't heard of this. Though hominids are like anthropology itself is not my specialty. That is interesting. I haven't heard of this. It's usually areas in certain parts of Arizona or possibly New Mexico, Utah.
for the oldest people.
Supposedly, no, like established settlements over in North America by like the um hybrids of Siberians and East Asians, which I think um, I heard about something where possibly it was either California or North Carolina There was this supposed area that was possibly over 120,000 years old, but I'm not sure if that was an overstatement and whether or not it was confirmed. So, um, it's just not my specialty. So, these new findings cast light on the 15 million year period from then to 1 million years ago, which is largely absent from New Zealand's fossil record. This wasn't a missing chapter in New Zealand's ancient history, it was a missing volume. Among the most notable discoveries is a previously unknown parrot species, Strigops insula borealis, which belongs to the same lineage as the modern kakapo. While today's kakapo is a large ground dwelling bird that cannot fly, its ancient relative may not have shared that limitation. Studies of the fossil bones indicate that the extinct parrot had weaker legs than the modern kakapo, suggesting it was less adapted for climbing. Oh yeah, kakapows are really good climbers. Very curious, herbivorous birds as well. Scientists say additional research will be needed to determine whether it was capable of flight. The cave also preserved the remains of an extinct ancestor of the takahe, offering new insight into the evolutionary history of one of New Zealand's most recognizable birds. In addition, researchers identified a now lost pigeon species closely related to Australian bronze-winged pigeons. The shifting forest and shrubland habitats forced a reset of the bird populations. Yeah, I think many people tend to associate pigeons with maybe certain parts of England and then maybe the United States, but they don't know that there are certain native pigeon species over in areas like Australia and New Zealand. The shifting forest and shrubland habitats forced a reset of the bird populations. We believe this was a major driver for the evolutionary diversification of birds and other fauna in the North Island. The fossils could be accurately dated as they were between two layers of volcanic ash preserved in the cave. One layer was from an eruption 1.55 million years ago, while the other was from a massive eruption 1 million years ago. The more recent eruption would have blanketed much of the North Island in meters of ash. Most of it would have been washed away, but some would have been preserved in caves. The older layer found at this fossil site proves it is the oldest known cave in the North Island. So North Island of New Zealand. Associate Professor Worthy says the fossils provide a critical missing baseline for New Zealand's natural history. For decades, the extinction of New Zealand's birds was viewed primarily through the lens of human arrival 750 years ago. This study proves that natural forces like supervolcanoes and dramatic climate shifts were already sculpting the unique identity of our wildlife over a million years ago. Well, that makes sense for pretty much everywhere on Earth. These types of um, natural disasters, and then yeah, the differences in climate would have a major effect on the animals. And
Just a quick break into this. Mr. Mound then said it's a more recent discovery.
oh, um, hmm. Okay, well that's interesting. So over in Oregon, I really wonder how old it is, since I think a lot of things point to oldest settlements being somewhere between 20 to 30,000 years in North America. At least the last time I checked, I haven't paid too much attention to North American late Pleistocene or Ice Age settlements by people. So, um, okay, I'll guess I could take a look. Also, to see what's going on with other animals in the region too, like what's going on with the Columbian mammoths and the saber tooths, considering we just went over a thing where we're seeing hybrids of Columbian woolly mammoths. So apparently during that time it was a bit of a warming period. So that wait, not warm period. It was a major cold period. Technically, that's not new. Just having to wrap my mind around that. Okay, let's go on to the next video. Oh no, yeah, this is definitely Romania. Yep. Oh, yeah, I remember this was oh, no, no, no. Oh, he's not trying to give you a high five. That's not what he wants to do.
He did.
Yeah, but that's
He wants
he's
food.
yeah, he's annoyed.
Yeah. It's like, "What? You're not giving
This
me
is a
anything?"
mother with her cubs. It's probably over, yeah, in the Carpathian Mountains of the country. Which, it's one of the two largest mountain ranges over in Europe with the Alps. There are also different regions of the Carpathian Mountains as well. I believe Romania itself has around 8,000 brown bears. It's a pretty dense population. Okay. So from the dailyinterlake.com, it's all in the genes. Biologists search for clues in the DNA of one of Montana's most elusive creatures, the fisher. This little mustelid. I guess he's setting up trail camera. I guess he put up scenting area. Well, I mean, maybe he put some sort of scent there for that the fisher likes. So maybe they're trying to get fur samples.
Oh, they were saying the fisher was putting up the trail camera.
Hopefully, they're not. I don't wonder what structures they are. No, I mean, no, probably certainly somewhat capable of it. The fisher slipped into the Cabinet Mountains on New Year's Day, 1989. Hmm. I was thinking of somewhere over. I was thinking of another mountain range over in Quebec, but we're a bit of a distance from Minnesota. Moving quietly and stealthily, their elongated bodies hardly more than a shadow against the bright winter snowscape. It was their first taste of freedom in months. The Fishers had been live captured from Minnesota force back in November and transported via pickup truck to a research facility in northwest Montana. There, biologists prepared the small weasel like creatures for release back into the wild. They examined each animal for signs of injury or disease, drew vials of blood, and affixed radio collars around scruffy brown collared necks. Colored necks. The final step was a 5-day acclimation period in which the fishers lived in wire cages on the outskirts of the Cabinet Mountains wilderness. Uh, just in the cage? I would think it would be specifically, on the ground. They just have a certain area to kind of get used to the terrain a bit. Um, let's see. Every step of the journey had been painstakingly recorded by researchers, but when it finally came time to open the cage doors and release the fishers, scientists turned away. They wanted the fishers to have the best chance for a stress-free reintroduction. On the morning of the release date, the cage doors were opened and all humans immediately left the area, wrote Kevin Roy, a graduate student who worked on the project. There were no witnesses to the Fishers' first moments back in the wild. They were ghosts, dissolving seamlessly into the forest shadows. More than 100 Fishers would be translocated to the Cabinet Mountains between 1989 and 1991. Radio tags helped biologists keep track of a handful of the transplants, but most vanished from the scientific record as soon as they set foot outside their cages. Their fates remained a mystery until a few years ago, when Alex Frick began scouring the archives of state and federal wildlife agencies. A trained geneticist with the U.S. Forest Service's Rocky Mountain Research Station, Frake wasn't looking for paper documents. She was far more interested in the scraps of fur and scat and tissue that various agencies had collected and preserved over the years. Stored in each sample was a wealth of genetic information that Frake could use to reconstruct the long term results of a suit of Fisher translocations that occurred in western Montana and northern Idaho during the 20th century. The analysis would also provide an unprecedented look into the region's current fisher population, enabling land managers to make more informed decisions about the conservation of one of the region's most enigmatic creatures. I would think it'd be quite challenging to come up with an estimate for these fishers, considering just the type of um, just overall territory behavior that they have, and they're a lot more elusive than certain animals, like even possibly wolverines. And wolverines are also much bigger. The main function of this study was to see how all of these translocations and movements of fishers are impacting contemporary genetic diversity and what we call population structure, or essentially our way of measuring how well these populations of animals are connected, and how much they're reproducing together. Fishers are native to boreal forests throughout Canada and the northern United States, but the rampant fur trade of the 1800s extirpated much of the population in western Montana and northern Idaho. Weighing from 5 to 10 pounds, they were once commonly called Fisher cats, likely because of their cat like scream, partially retractable claws, and ability to climb trees.
Whoa, those little things can weigh up to 10 pounds?
Yeah, these are one of the larger species of mustelids. So, I mean, technically, otters are mustelids too. The tides turned back in favor of the fisher in the early 1900s when,
Oh, how big do otters get?
well, okay. If you're referring to the sea otter, they can reach possibly as much as 150 pounds.
So they get 15 times larger.
Yeah, we're pushing a little over 70 kilograms. So let's see. As the region's when timber overtook trapping as the region's industry of choice. Loggers shipped fishers from British Columbia in the hopes that the mustelids would hunt down the bark-loving porcupines that regularly girdled prime timber prospects. State and federal wildlife agencies supplemented early informal translocations with their own projects throughout the 1950s and 1960s. Fishers were captured in British Columbia and released into the Kootenai, which is over northern Idaho. Flathead, that's in Montana, western Montana. Bitterroot, northeastern Idaho. And Nez Perce Clearwater National Forest, northern Idaho, south of Kootenai National Forest. The reintroduction to the Cabinet Mountains between 1989 and 1991 represented the final Fisher translocation project in the region. Wait, no, the Cabinet Mountains. They're not in Minnesota. They're in I think they're over in Montana. Okay, so Nathan Kluge, the fur bearer coordinator for Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, said the state spearheaded some initiatives to research fishers in the intervening years, including two occupancy studies. But that research provided only a broad overview of where fishers were in western Montana, with little information on overall population numbers and even fewer insights into factors like genetic diversity. Oh, yeah, that wasn't hitting me with this specific species. I always tend to think of many of the mustelids, except the black-footed ferret. Like, guys, doesn't have a lot of genetic variety, but everybody else, you just tend to, or I just tend to associate them with as being quite common, and they're just elusive. But this seems to possibly not be the case with certain populations of fish. I actually find that quite interesting. Let's see. So we didn't have a really good understanding of our fisher population in Montana. What the state wildlife agency did was have a wealth of fur samples. While completing the first occupancy study in the winter of 2018 to 2019, biologists had erected hair snares at 344 locations across Montana, Idaho, and eastern Washington. Probably the Colville National Forest, which is adjacent to over in northeastern Washington, and it's adjacent to the forest over in northern Idaho. Another 132 monitoring stations were deployed in the winter of 2023 to 2024. The contraption consisted of a piece of metal pucked with wire coils designed to snag onto the fish's fur. Front country monitoring stations were regularly supplied with slabs of roadkill to entice the fishers, while more remote locations utilized scent pumps that had been set to automatically drip what biologists called a liquid lure onto a piece of bone once per day.
My God, could I have picked longer articles?
Back at the Rocky Mountain Research Station, Frank tweezered the hairs that researchers had gathered into sterile plastic tubes and set the samples spinning into a centrifuge. Several cycles of rapid rotation and heat amplified strands of DNA in the hair, making it possible for researchers to study the genetics of the animals in detail. So, in the samples from the hold on a second.
Jesus.
Well, guess we could try. In the samples from the Cabinet Mountains, Frank saw clear evidence that at least some of the translocated fishers had survived long enough to reproduce. The Cabinet Mountain samples have genetic markers that are uniquely found in the Midwest, and so it made it pretty easy to go, oh, yes, we know for sure that their ancestors are Midwestern fishers. So, what this sounds like is, though it tends to confuse me when it comes to like whether or not these are different subspecies, is that these specific populations of fishers are showing different types of genetic backgrounds. Now, they will contain similar types, maybe different traces of DNA or like same types of other regions, but they are going to carry different percentages and it's going to be a different type of animal at that rate. It's technically not the same thing. I mean, it's a fisher, but it's its own subspecies. I would think of fisher at least, if not its own distinct species.
Off topic, Misty Mountain said, "I'm sure you've covered it in some point, but it's cool the American jaguar is making a comeback population-wise."
It's very slow over in southern Arizona and possibly New Mexico. But you do have it more recently where they are one by one coming back into the couple of states. But so far there isn't a breeding population. It's mostly still just subjected to Mexico. and then of course southern populations over in South America. But yeah, so far it's just a few individuals popping up in the southern parts of those states. It doesn't look like Southern California or Texas they've showed up. They used to be there historically. So let's see. So more puzzling to Frake was that the fact that the Midwestern genetics were completely absent from samples taken outside the Cabinet Mountains. The finding fit within the historical context of Fisher translocations. Most biologists sourced fissures from British Columbia. The translocation to the Cabinet Mountains, which used fissures captured in Minnesota and Wisconsin, was an outlier. Well, yeah. Well, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, this is over in the different wetlands and those specific eastern forests. So I would expect them to have different types of genetics. It's like when you look at certain genetics of coyotes in the western United States, you're going to see that their genetic makeup is very different over in Utah as opposed to California, or Washington State as opposed to Utah, or California as well. So it is quite interesting. Let's see. So it seems to be, going on with fishers too. In theory, the Midwestern transplants would have dispersed from the transplant site in the following years. Some would have mated with native fishers or transplants from British Columbia. Generation by generation, they would have spread their Midwestern genetics throughout the entire region. In reality, Frank's genetic analysis suggested that the Midwestern fishers and their offspring had stayed with the confines of the Cabinet Mountains. We expect when we translocate animals, they're going to move and take advantage of these resources, but in some cases, it seems like they kind of stay put. We don't really know why. She suggested that I 90, which is basically from Seattle, Washington, all the way to Chicago, Illinois, could be a barrier for fishers attempting to move south from the Cabinet Mountains. But more studies would need to be done to confirm that hunch. In Idaho, a project is already underway to improve the connectivity of fishers in the Cabinet Mountains with more southerly populations in the Nez Perce Clearwater National Forest. The two populations are currently separated by the Coeur d'Alene Mountains over in Idaho, which officials say contain extensive modeled fisher habitat with limited documented fisher observations. Over the next 2 to 3 years, the Idaho Department of Fish and Game plans to translocate up to 15 fishers each year from the Nez Perce Clearwater National Forest to the Coeur d'Alene Mountains. So I guess apparently they're pretty common in this specific area. So if successful, this effort will establish a third population center, provide genetic connectivity, and improve our understanding of fishery ecology in Idaho. Reads a handout on the program from a January 2026 commission meeting. There are currently no plans to translocate fishers in Montana, but Kluge said the recent genetic study would prove useful if officials decide to follow Idaho's lead in the future. With the information supplied by Frank's analysis, biologists would be able to ensure any translocated fishers have genetic signatures similar to the native population, something that Kluge said biologists are already doing with pine marten translocations in southwest Montana, which is a close relative of the fisher. Another species mustelid tends to be a bit orange and beige in color, a little bit of a darker brown tail. Also hunts squirrels. For now, he said the agency is conducting research to better ascertain why the Cabinet Mountains continue to host fewer fishers in other areas of northwest Montana. The running hunch for several years was that the extensive history of timber extraction had left few old growth trees for fishers to den. Biologists distributed man made den boxes throughout the Cabinet Mountains to test this theory. Game cameras recorded fishers visiting several of the boxes between 2019 and 2025, but none lingered long enough to give birth and raise their kits. Oh, well, that's unfortunate. Despite the less than inspiring results, Kluge said the venture expanded biologists' understanding of fishers and put the agency one step closer to its goal of conserving Montana's native wildlife species. All of this is an effort to ensure that we have a sustainable fisher population for the foreseeable future.
It's just saying they didn't linger there long enough, which means
Yeah, they could have survived for a bit longer and had more, what would you call them? Kittens, I think? Like otters, possibly. Okay. So, um, thanks for joining, and we will see you Wednesday at 10 a.m. And from Prehistoric to Present, my name is Ethan. This is Creature Kind Live Daily News. And remember that nothing is better than all